Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Fisheries Biologist Bardin, and today we're going to talk about pond turbidity. Last week I was called to a lake that I've never been to by a new client, and whenever I got to the lake, the first thing I observed was that the pond had very low visibility due to turbidity. So turbidity is just any kind of soil particle that's actually floating in the water column, so it's staying suspended rather than sinking to the bottom. And that turbidity in this situation is causing very low visibility that's dramatically affecting the phytoplankton population. So phytoplankton is a microscopic plant-like organism that floats through the water column, and it actually produces oxygen through the process of photosynthesis, and it is a essential organism because small microscopic animal-like organisms called zooplankton eat this phytoplankton, and that's actually the base of the food chain. So your small fry fish or forage fish are all eating organisms that eat phytoplankton. So having high turbidity, creating low visibility, is affecting the oxygen production in the pond, and it's also affecting the base of the food chain. So our production value is lowered just by this turbidity. So whenever I see this, it's something I really want to address so that I can maximize the production of this guy's lake. So today's video, what we're going to talk about is a couple of the causes of turbidity, and then we're going to talk about some tests that you can do at your house to identify the causes of turbidity that potentially are affecting your pond. Whenever we're talking about turbidity, we have to understand that there can be multiple causes for the turbidity in the pond. So we want to identify as many of those causes as possible. Now, causes could be something like mechanical issues. Mechanically, the sediment's being picked up from the bottom and it's being resuspended. So mechanical causes would be something like wind. If you have a really shallow side of a pond and wind blows across, it's going to pick sediment up. Same thing with runoff from rainfall. If you have a large amount of rainfall, comes across the shoreline, that's going to bring sediment into the pond, and that's going to suspend in the water column. Livestock is another great short-term mechanical cause of turbidity. So livestock, whenever they get into the water to swim, drink, things like that, they're going to stir up that sediment on the shoreline and resuspend it into the water column. Long-term mechanical turbidity issues are something like fish. If you have certain fish species that are going to come into the shallow water, they're going to be feeding on something that's on the bottom, they're going to pick sediment up, and that's going to happen every day, so it's going to look pretty continuous. So understanding if you have those mechanical issues, are they short-term, long-term, really observing the pond every day, and being aware, if I put livestock into the pond today and it becomes turbid tomorrow, I understand that the cause of that turbidity was the livestock. If I remove the livestock in 2 or 3 weeks, and over time the pond becomes clear again, then I would understand that definitely the livestock were causing the issue. Sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes there's also a chemical cause of turbidity. So maybe livestock are being introduced into the pond and they're suspending that clay particle, but then that clay particle actually has a negative charge to it. So what happens is the water that has a positive charge draws that clay and holds it up into the water column longer than it should. In that situation, we have to identify, number one, the cause of the turbidity, and number two, is it possible to actually flocculate those sediment particles together and make them fall out of the water column? When it comes time to actually determining if it's a mechanical or chemical issue or both that's affecting your turbidity of your water, what I like to do is a bucket test. And how I do mine is I actually take 1-gallon containers and I go out into the middle of the lake or off of a dock, something away from the shoreline a little bit, and I take those water samples, and I actually take 3 to 4 1-gallon containers with me so that I can get multiple samples to actually run some tests to determine not only what the potential causes of the turbidity are, but some of the solutions that we might be able to do. So you take the 1-gallon jug, take it back to the house, seal it up, and put it in a room where it's not going to get sunlight, it's not going to get animals or anything disturbing it. Because what you want to do is you want to eliminate all physical factors. So if you eliminate wind, runoff, livestock, everything you can, fish, from that container, what you're going to get is what happens to that pond water if none of those physical factors are actually stirring the water up. So I run this test for about 1 week to look at how much of the sediment actually sinks out, and how clear does that water become after 1 week. You always want to look at these samples from the top down, not through the side. So from the top down, can I actually get visibility within a week? And if I can, then I know that it's a physical factor that's causing turbidity. If I don't get clear water within a week, then I know that it's something chemical that's affecting the water. Now, once I've narrowed it down to something chemical, then I need to determine, are there solutions? So, number one, taking good water quality tests and sending that off to a lab to understand the water quality parameters is important. Number two, I go ahead and run those tests whenever I'm running my initial test. So with a second 1 gallon jug, I've got my first one, that's my control. My second one, what I'm going to put is actually a quarter of a tablespoon of alum into that water sample. And I'm not going to stir it up, I'm just going to sprinkle it on the top. I'm going to let it go for a week and see what it looks like. Now, alum is something that you can purchase actually at the grocery store. If you go to the spice aisle, you will see little containers of alum. Just take 1/4 of a tablespoon of that, put it in the 1 gallon jug, and see if that clears it up. The third jug, I actually do the same thing, but instead of using alum, I use some gypsum rock. So I personally have gypsum rock just from projects I've done, so I use a pure sample. You probably don't have a pure sample of gypsum rock, so what you should use is a small piece of drywall. So go into the garage, go into the closet, maybe look at some of the light sockets, see if you can see any drywall breaking off. Drywall has a percentage of it that is made of gypsum rock. So if you can get something about the same size, about a quarter of a tablespoon, and put it in that 1 gallon jug, and then give that gypsum a week to see if it can clear that water. And then finally, if there's anything else, maybe polymers that I want to try or bacteria that I want to try, then I would do that in a fourth container. But I'm going to run all these tests at the exact same time so that within 1 week I can determine what are the causes of the turbidity. Is it mechanical or chemical? And if it is chemical, do any of the solutions like alum or gypsum work to actually clear this lake up? Because if so, then I can get started with making a correction. So what you're going to see here is I did those tests. So you'll see me putting in all those different chemicals into the water and come back 1 week later. And what happened with this sample at the lake that I was at last week is every single one of the 1 gallon jugs actually was clear within a week. It was actually the alum cleared within about 12 hours, and the gypsum cleared within 2 days, and then the pond water and bacteria cleared before the end of the week. So that tells me it's something mechanical. There's a mechanical issue that's causing the turbidity in this lake. So now I'm going to take the electrofishing boat. I'm going to start looking at the shoreline. Is there vegetation on the shoreline? I'm going to look at the rainfall. Is the livestock around? Put those little pieces together so I can come up with a solution to decrease the turbidity in this lake and increase visibility and start gaining some fish production. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. You learned a little bit about the causes of turbidity in a pond, how it affects a pond, how to test those causes and see which one's affecting your pond, and then a few solutions. If you like this video, go ahead and leave me a comment, like the video, and of course, if you can, subscribe to the channel. This has been Fisheries Biologist Stephen Bardin, and this is Real Biology.